So obviously, Green Book is a huge game changer, a huge mile marker for the two of you, both creatively and professionally, and all of that. So let's talk a little bit about that and everything that sort of launched around that album and what the mentality was then. And
at this point, it was like we were so caught up in making sure that Psychopathic Records was the greatest thing in the world that we weren't paying attention to what the fuck was going on with Twiztid like that. It wasn't like that. It was like running with a hatchet. It wasn't like Twiztid. Look at our vid. Look at this. We didn't have a lot of videos. We didn't have any radio songs. We didn't have any of that. What we had was a fan base that embraced us for everything we were. And we wouldn't let that go for anything. And we made sure from the top of the mountains, people were going to hear these motherfuckers. And that, man, that became something greater than Twiztid, than ICP, than the record label, than any of it. We became facets inside of their world. It was their world now. And it was on us to either accept that responsibility or not. And we did.
We were exactly what Paul says, but it's like we were helping build their brand. And we were team players, so we didn't look at it like that. Thank you for correcting me. Thank you for correcting me, because I was just about to say that. We were helping them build their brand, but we felt that it was ours. And I think that was where things get wishy-washy as we go forward. But during the Green Book, that was the first time when we tried to step away from them and do our own thing, because much like Freak Show, we had already felt like, you know, we were able to leave the nest. We were able to get out of mom's and dad's basement and go out there and live. And it was welcome and it was okay, and then it got weird, but
we left the record label. We left.
Oh, absolutely.
We were fed up. We were done. We left. We started our own thing. Still didn't stop.
Yeah.
And when the negotiations came back and we came back, that was one of the things that they were like, dude, we just know it don't matter where you guys are. You will never fucking stop. We can throw everybody else off of this label and they will fucking be gas station attendants and warehouse workers. But you two, you will not stop. And we're flabbergasted by that. And we were like, absolutely, because it's bigger than you. Do you not see these kids behind us? Like, there's nothing that's going to get in the way of that relationship. Nothing, no one, nobody.
But
and
at
every
the same
step
time,
of the way, we control that. You know what I mean? We control that destiny.
But at the same time, to be conscious of knowing at that point now that now you have it correct. Now you know you are helping them continue to build their brand. And now being conscious of it. And at this, I think that's the point where Paul and I start building and more fortifying our own brand. And you'll see that as we go forward, that this is the point where we start really more embracing ourselves and stop relying on others and start relying more on Jamie and Paul, which is how we started. That's why we say getting back to our old ways, because that's how we started. We started with us, and that's how it is, you know? But all part of a learning process.
And it makes sense to me, and that's why I say it's a turning point too, but it makes sense to me that is ultimately what you would want. I mean, if you think about, even looking at parallels in hip hop, if you think about Death Row, right? And that's Dre coming from NWA. And then all of a sudden he's bringing Snoop up. He's bringing up Lady of Rage, DOC.
Right.
Well, you think about all these people, Nate Dogg and Warren G, and how they all sprung up and had their own things and became their own people despite that association. And then you can also look at other examples of crews that were around a particular artist or whatever that disappeared. And so there's always kind of a difference, like you were saying, between who has the stuff to stand on their own after getting that start.
Right.
There's an immense difference between an immense difference between a rapper / musician and a business person. And that's what we wanted to be. We didn't want to just be rappers. Like, no way. We seen the merchandise, we seen the touring, we seen
For
the
sure.
novelty. We're like, we want that.
But also, I'm sorry, but we're from the world of the come up. It's where we come from. It's about coming up. It's not a bad thing to come up. We started at the balls bottom of it and built our way up. Whether we built a ladder ourselves, it's about the come up. It always has been. So that's why we always tell people, like, if you are upset about us for wanting to come up, that's your hookup, not ours. That's your hang up, not ours. Because we've always been. You know what I mean?
We can't control who likes us, just like we can't control who don't like us. We can only do what we can do.
And also,
we let the cards lay.
And also, it's, you know, you would think that people would, and obviously a lot of people do, would support that because that's more aspirational. I mean, why do you want to listen to a record from people rapping about how they don't want to go anywhere? You know
I think that's absolutely no. But I think
like
that's
why. In the basement. My mom hit my gut. Like,
I think that might have been the strengthening agent between us and our listeners is because part of what's cool about Jamie and Paul is that people. We are the juggalos. I think we said that before too. Like we're the juggalos who made good, man. We started on the other side of the barricade and ended up on stage.
Right.
So when they see us, they're like, every one of our accomplishments are celebrated. They're proud of us and we're proud of them. And I think it's a mutual feeling. And I think that's the point where we start growing and the bond becomes stronger. And we start realizing it, because if you notice, that's like the time when we really kind of shift into the family era.
Yeah,
because you know what I mean. It's like that's
right there.
Yeah,
we came into this juggalo thing where it was like anarchy, man. It was fucking set the venue on fire and let's fucking wow out. And then we turned it to something that, good or bad, you could fucking bring your kid to meet Twiztid. Like there's something about these guys that is 1 to 1,001. Like they can relate to anybody. They can relate, and they've come from everything. They've been through it all, and they're not afraid to sit here and talk about it. Like that's what we brought, man. We brought that, right? That fucking unity, that ability to take fans from all musical genres and bring them into this family. And when you come here, you can be who the fuck you want, man.
Absolutely.
That's what's cool about that family thing too, is that you see that it's a subculture and it's a lifestyle, and that there's a group of people who live and die by it. Yes. But I do feel like Twiztid was the first time that I, as an outsider of a sort, saw it as welcoming, that you could go to a Twiztid show and not be a juggalo. You know what I mean? And be welcomed by the juggalos.
Yes. We wanted to be that bridge. We've always wanted that. We've always wanted to kick down the barricade and let more people in, and not have it be like everyone is welcome. It's not about who. It's not about what you are. It's about who you are.
And that was my next. Paul. You brought me right into my next thing. I want to talk about the guests on Green Book, because there's a lot of dope guests, and it was the first one I wanted to talk about. Tell me about that relationship, that feature, how he ended up on the record, and what that was all about.
Like before Pac, there was 40.
Yeah.
40 raised me.
Absolutely.
You know, 40 raised a lot of Detroit City.
Yeah.
And just my favorite, one of my favorite artists ever. And reading a magazine, his son had said something about us, that we were fans of his, so he acknowledged that. And I was like, man, what are the chances that we could get him on the record? And not only, he got on the phone with me, said like 30 words I didn't understand, like, you sizzling, baby, we see you over there for shit, like, blew my mind. And he was like, send the track, dude, my kids are fans, so that's all family, shit like that. And then Tech Nine, and it just, 40's been in the family for a long time.
Absolutely.
Sick With It Records wanted to sign Twiztid when we left, but we offered them solo records and they wanted the band. They were like, no, we want you both. And we were like, well, just wait. Yeah, man, shouts out to 40. Absolutely, man. 100%.
That's so awesome.
One of the absolute best. I mean, a legend.
Oh, God.
For sure.
Absolutely.
So good.
Restaurants.
And like you said with the lingo, dropping all the words.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, man.
I just remember looking at Jamie on the phone like, it's him. He said it. He said it.
Just the sheer look of happiness on his face, and even just looking, like, seeing him tell the story, it's like that's what it's all about.
The best part He didn't send us some mailed-in fucking verse.
No,
right?
He went out. You know, I just appreciate that so much because working with artists, you start to find out motherfuckers that are just mail it in, and a motherfucker that you can tell went in there.
Or people that have their verses that are like one size fits all. That whoever hits them up next just gets that verse, as opposed to like, I'm writing this for a Twiztid song.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We like that made from scratch kind of vibe.
Right.
But yeah, for sure though.
Not just let me go dust one off the shelf.
Yeah. And that was what's cool. When was Proof, right? Remember that?
Same
that was
thing.
different. I mean, completely different. We didn't get there yet.
Oh yeah, we'll get
absolutely.
there. Rest in peace.
As I said, we didn't get there, but just in speaking of people like that, he's another person who was like that. You know, like he came with a briefcase full of stuff and went from scratch, and there's just a respect value, man. It's very humbling.
It means more. And speaking of legends, Bushwick Bill.
Yeah. R.I.P.
Yeah. I mean, Mind Playing Tricks on Me is like it's October as we're talking.
It is.
I can't think about Halloween without thinking about, Halloween weekend, which I think it does this year.
Mind Playing Tricks on Me, that's mainstream shit. You want to get real, you listen to Chuck Wick. Like, that's
real. It's insane.
And speaking of horrorcore, he's like,
right. I'm going to shoot my eye and he did it like he was crazy.
But it was like the influences that Ghetto Boys had in the scene, in the base of where we come from. It's interesting. You know what I mean?
This will play together later on, but a humongous fan of Scarface. Immense fan.
I mean, he's a top 10 all time rapper.
Right, like immense
absolutely.
Fan. And fast forward, a story about us at the gathering, and Scarface was there with me and Jamie Madrox. We're in our trailer. All of a sudden, our door bust open. Boom! Twiztid. Paint my face up. And we were like, don't let another man paint your face, but we will show you how to paint your face.
We'll show you what to do.
Absolutely. We painted up his face. We went out in the grounds. He offered us a record deal. He was like, no, a distribution deal. I'm sorry. Hit me up anytime you want. Grab my phone, put his number.
Yep.
You're like, okay, Scarface. All right.
I still have his number in my contacts. That's something that every now and again I'm like, let's call Scarface and see if he wants to order a pizza.
Right.
So cool.
Such a good dude.
So very cool. Absolutely.
Wow moment.
And I love,
absolutely. No, seriously. Very down to earth.
Everyone in the Ghetto Boys had their own personality, their own voice, like literally and figuratively, and how that made just such a
Willie D a slap a bitch.
Willie D will. Willie D will.
Scarface will rob a bitch, and Chuck Wick will kill a bitch.
What's the I think it's in No Vaseline, right? Where Cube says Willie D told me to let a hoe be a hoe.
Yep. You gotta let a hoe be a hoe. That's it.
I can picture Willie D giving her all five.
You gotta let a hoe be a hoe. That's it. Yeah.
So how did Bushwick end up on Green Book?
Just another one of them things. Like, let's get one of the icons. Let's go. Let's see. Let's see if it'll happen.
Yeah. Can't hurt to ask, right?
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he came through. He spit the verse, and we were like, "Bet, there we go."
It's crazy.
Got 1/3 of the Ghetto Boys on there.
We have a track list that was handwritten by Paul and I. It's framed in our office, and it has like our original liner notes for it. And we had down, it was, I guess you would call it like our fantasy football list, but it had Henry Rollins. We wanted him to do the intro. I remember that. And it was just like, it didn't happen, obviously. And but the fact that we were always those people like, man, we're just going to ask. And what's the worst that can happen? No, or we don't like your whatever. And that's fine, whatever. But we would always be like those guys to just ask, because we are absolute fans of stuff. We're fans of people and stuff. And that's part of our individuality. And we tell everyone to celebrate that. So why wouldn't we? So you know what I mean? It's a full circle thing. It's part of who we are. It's dope.
I got
right,
to see,
absolutely. We stopped wanting guests when we started meeting people, and they weren't as nice as you would have hoped they would have been, man. And it was like, man, well, fuck everybody then.
let's not ask that person. Yeah. I got to meet Bushwick in Texas at South by Southwest. I used to manage the band, the Dillinger Escape Plan, when they were around.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
And
right on.
We did South by, and it was like on a stage outdoors. It was Sick of It All and Dillinger. And Bushwick was just there. He was just hanging. And then he was just on stage, and he was watching Dillinger, and he wanted to meet the band. And then he was watching Sick of It All, just stage camper, like just on stage, hanging out, and just was just so cool and down to earth, and just
that's the vibe. All accounts
want meeting him,
For sure, yeah. All accounts of people that I've ever heard talk about him are just say that he's just like one of those show goers who at the same time would be the person on the stage, but was there as a fan more times than not, just really getting it.
Yeah,
that's dope. I can't hate that. That's pretty cool. And he liked all kinds of music, so that was cool too.
Yeah, he did. He did for sure. So let's jump into album number 4.
What is it?
Man's Myth Vol.1.
Man's Myth Vol.1. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Is that the rock one?
No.
That's the rap one.
Yep.
Yes. And that's not all the guests from last time, but it is, I think it's more of a
family oriented.
You're talking about broadening that audience and bringing more people in. I think that record did that even a little more than anything before.
Yeah, we tried to expand on the sound of Freak Show and make it a little more harsh, like a little angrier, you know what I mean? That was the staunch difference between Freak Show and that record, is the anger that was fucking portrayed in Man's Myth Vol.1 is ridiculous. Yeah. Just like the storm cloud.
I think, for sure.
Freak Show was more introspective to me, where Man's Myth Vol.1, you let it out. You looked back, and now you're letting it out. This is how I'm letting it out. And it's coming off pissed off.
No, I feel that. I feel like with Freak Show, it was like we were coming into our own by Green Book. Whatever was to be established was established. And by the time we get to like Man's Myth, it's kind of us. To me personally, it's our level out period. I really do. I don't think I mean we do good, like the material's good, but I think like during that phase there was a lot of confusion. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And you could tell, because I don't want to spoil the albums as we go, but as we get more to the right, it'll start clinking back up. Like when you get to it's like Wicked and Abominations. When you get back to Wicked and Abominations, it's like you feel that we had sat down and like listened to everything, but there'll still be times when we'll go back and listen to those records when we're doing like, in stores and stuff. And we're like, what the hell is this? And it'll be a song from Man's Myth. And you'll be like, oh, wow, that's great. Right. So it's not like it doesn't have good music on it. I just personally of our stuff, that's like, if I never can pick one, but I'm like Most Tasteless, Freak Show, because that was your first shit. That was when you established it. And there's more as we go, but and they have their reasons why as well.
But there's those landmarks along the way.
Yeah, to me.
With any band with a catalog, you can point
to. For sure.
But the musical exploration on that record, I think, would have been compared to Freak Show. You know what I mean? Because it was a little more experimental, but it was just so much more hardcore. Mm-hmm. And I think this was the point where people started realizing, we can't put a finger on these guys. Right. We don't know what the fuck they're going to do. Are they going to do a rap, a rock, a rap and rock? Like, what are they going to do? These motherfuckers can do a country song for all we know. I think it's when they really started to figure that out. Like, they're everything. They are whatever they want to be. That's what they're going to be. Whatever we feel, that's what we're going to emanate.
Yeah. True. Yeah. And it is adventurous in that way, I think is a good way to put it. And usually when you hear somebody describe a band's record, fourth or fifth record, as adventurous or experimental, that usually means poppier or melodic or weird. And like you said, no, this meant angrier.
And we were conscious of that. We were extremely conscious of that. Like, we know we could have probably did mainstream rap music from the minute we came in, but it was like everybody was doing that. We want to do something true to us. And what was true to us, again, horror movies, hobbies in the hood. And that was not
Right.
accepted in the mainstream.
And also,
there you go.
Also, there you can't, like, it can't just be glossed over that we spent a good portion of Most Tasteless to almost just about Man Smith fighting this big fuck the mainstream campaign, where when we get to Man Smith, that's why I said there was a lot of, to me personally, a lot of just us picking up pieces and being like, you know, and just kind of like figuring out where we stand and those kind of deals, and kind of focusing in on the family vibe and staying experimental, because the next record that comes out is the all rock record, which is Mutant. That's the volume 2.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about that, because there's an interesting, when band, you know, obviously there's the double album when records come out together as one record. And then there's the, you know, Guns N' Roses Use Your Illusion, right? Where it's, you know, there's Tupac, All Eyes on Me, and then there's Use Your Illusion, where it's 2 separate records, but they're released on the same day. And then there are a few examples of like what you guys did, where their companion albums, they go together, but they're released just a little bit apart. Not like years apart, but, you know, a month apart, I think it was.
Yeah.
What was the, you know, given that you guys are also businessmen and as well as artists, what was the thought process there creatively, marketing wise, in terms of, do we release it on the same day? Is it 1 album? Is it 2 albums? Is it a month apart? Do you remember how you came to that decision?
At that point, the one thing that we were terrified of, which is crazy, was oversaturation. You could actually give too much then. And people would be like, whatever. You know what I mean? So that was definitely a conscious thing. And we wanted each record to have its day. We didn't want one to outshine the other. You know what I mean? Because they were staunchly different records. Staunchly. So that went into it a lot. As far as marketing and shit, we were just learning how to market at this point, to be honest. Learning how to work an album title, an album cover, and a merch line into a launch. We were just learning this at this point, where we were still not hitting on all cylinders yet. And that was behind the scenes. That was on us. That wasn't anything the public would have seen. That was just where we were, as where we wanted to be as businessmen, as knowing this industry. That's what it was. We were just missing a couple things, and that's what we focused on.
And I think that's why I say the whole time is just kind of clouded for me. And it's just like, I know that whenever we do what we do, it's going to be good. And, you know, there's some solid tracks on both of the part 1 and part 2. But at the same time, I think it's as we clear our head and go to the right, it just keeps getting better and better. So that's just for me, it's, you know.
And I think that's a great point about the saturation that might get lost on people nowadays, because it has done a total turn where now it's like you want to be constantly putting stuff out and constantly, you know, like people expect that, especially during the pandemic, you know, when they know that you're not on tour and stuff like that. But yeah, you're right. Back in the day, it was absolutely the opposite, where it was like, well, you can't give people too much.
Right.
Or
then they take it for granted, or then they, Twiztid was just here 3 weeks ago. I don't need to go see them again now. It's interesting how that's totally shifted.
You're right.
It really has.
Yep. And we watched it and we evolved with it, which is a huge part that we're here today, is because we paid attention to the evolution of the industry.
For sure.
Not just music, the entire industry on a whole. We saw digital music coming 15 years ago. We were talking about shit like that, like where we are today, a long time ago. So I love that about us. We pay attention. We're always wanting to evolve.
As we get closer to those records, you start getting more into the social media aspect of things. It's starting to grow around those records. So like you're talking about us being, you know, flyers and telephone poles and mailing lists and things at that point. And as technology becomes more advanced, you know, maybe the verge of Twitter was starting or something, like, I don't know, you know, but this is how it goes forward. So what he just said, you know, knowing about it, being conscious of it, and trying to integrate your thing that you have going on into that and kind of flow with it was a big deal. It took a minute, and I think then we got it, you know. But that's why it was more of a growing period, clouded mind, trying to,
Right. By the time you guys got the record as listeners, we were already working on the next record.
True.
Already, to get this so that neither one would play a part on the other. That's what we did. We just kept going.
Yeah.
So you'll hit us with a discography. We'll be like, which one was it?
Right.
Like I said, instead of reveling in what it was to be Twiztid, we were in something much greater, a part of something much greater than that. So the so-called accolades or whatever, they're all fucking lost. We'll sit back when we're not doing this at 112 because we can't walk anymore, and we'll revel then.
Right, go back and marinate in the remember.
Right.
When this happened or this milestone
true.
or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They induct us into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That'll be fucking awesome.